Thanks for joining us at TTS Times Wire News. Be sure to like and subscribe to get fast and efficient narrations of the latest news articles for those on the go. We upload every weekday at noon Eastern Standard Time. See you next time on The Wire, and be sure to like and subscribe. This is TTS Times Wire News, providing fast and efficient narrations of the latest news articles for those on the go. We upload every weekday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to like and subscribe. Inside Climate News. Inside ClimateNews.com. Bolsonaro should be tried for crimes against humanity, Indigenous leaders say. Indigenous leaders and human rights groups say the Brazilian president's policies threaten tribal communities and constitutes what should be a new crime, ecocide. By Katie Surma, Inside Climate News. June 24, 2021, 5 a.m. EDT. On a Tuesday afternoon in late March 2020, Zezico Rodrigues Guajajara was killed by gunmen as he was driving a motorbike near his home village in Maranhão, Brazil. A member of the Guajajara tribe, he had worked for years to protect land in the Amazon belonging to his ancestors and other uncontacted, or isolated, tribes. For Zezico, fending off illegal incursions had become increasingly dangerous as emboldened logging and mining groups targeted him and other indigenous environmental activists. He was the fifth Guajajara to be killed in a 5-month period and one of over 24 forest protectors killed in Brazil since 2019. Indigenous chiefs and human rights organizations have accused Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro of enabling such killings through state policies that they say encourage the destruction of the Amazon for profit while failing to protect indigenous people's rights. They have asked the International Criminal Court to investigate whether the far-right leaders' actions, including weakening dozens of environmental protections and encouraging private development of the Amazon, leading to the displacement of indigenous people and contributing to climate change, constitute crimes against humanity. Bolsonaro has been campaigning against indigenous people and their rights since the first day he took office, said Marcio Estrini, head of the environmental protection organization Climate Observatory. In acts and speeches, he's incentivizing land grabbers, illegal loggers and illegal miners to invade indigenous areas, causing violence and deforestation. He is putting indigenous communities and lives at risk. Estrini supports the investigation request and said the international court's action is needed to stop Brazil's government from facilitating illegal activity in the Amazon. Brazil's embassy in Washington and its Ministry of Foreign Affairs did not respond to requests for comment. In response to questions from Inside Climate News and NBC News for a previous article, the Brazilian embassy said Bolsonaro had consistently championed indigenous people's well-being and the preservation of the Amazon. In public comments, Bolsonaro has staunchly defended Brazil's right to develop the rainforest, citing the country's sovereignty, and he has accused foreign leaders of wanting to impede Brazil's lucrative agricultural and commodity export industries. His supporters also point out that Brazil has historically contributed very little to climate change compared to developed countries like the United States. The International Criminal Court's Office of the Prosecutor, which is weighing the investigation request, did not respond to a request for comment. The request for the court to launch an investigation into Bolsonaro is the latest turn in a growing debate over whether mass environmental damage should be prosecuted as an international crime. Bolsonaro's rampant deforestation of the Amazon, and the threat posed by climate change, have prompted world leaders like Pope Francis and French President Emmanuel Macron to support a campaign for a new international crime called ecocide, which would outlaw widespread environmental destruction. Supporters cite Bolsonaro's actions in the Amazon as a prime example of ecocide happening in real time. The campaign for an ecocide crime is still in the early stages, though, and for now, the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction is limited to genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity and crimes of aggression. When it comes to environmental crimes, the court can only prosecute those that occur during wartime. That means the Brazilian activists' request for the court to investigate Bolsonaro could be a long shot, legal experts say, especially because national governments have long had control over natural resources within their borders. But there are also signs that give the activists hope. Some legal analysts think Karim Azad Ahmad Khan, who took over as the court's new prosecutor on June 16, may consider authorizing the court's first investigation related to environmental destruction. That's because Bolsonaro's alleged crimes are so closely related to the Amazon's deforestation. Activists and environmentalists hope a decision will come during Khan's first weeks in office, which coincides with the start of the Amazon's dry season, when the rainforest is susceptible to fires. Whatever Khan decides, the Bolsonaro case presents the international court with a novel way to advance legal thinking about environmental destruction and how deforestation can be linked to crimes against humanity, defined legally as widespread or systematic attacks against civilians. Almir Naryamoga Sururi and Raoni Machuktair, the two Brazilian indigenous chiefs who requested the international investigation, were not available for interviews, but they said in their request that the stakes for the Amazon are high. The rainforest captures carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, making it a core part of humanity's fight against climate change. Since Bolsonaro took office in January 2019, over 7,700 square miles of the Amazon have been destroyed, an area nearly as large as New Jersey. Scientists have warned that Bolsonaro's policies could push the rainforest to an irreversible tipping point, where the rainforest can no longer regenerate itself, which could cause cascading environmental disasters. The Amazon rainforest plays an essential role in global climate regulation, Sururi and Machuktair said in their request. A point of no return must be avoided at all costs. The push for accountability. Sururi and Machuktair filed their request, known as an Article 15 communication, with the International Criminal Court in January. The request detailed Bolsonaro's environmental and indigenous policies and those policies' ecological harms, and alleged that the policies have led to murders, forced displacement and the persecution of Brazil's indigenous population. They argued in the 68-page document that further destruction of the Amazon, 60% of which is in Brazil, poses a threat to humankind. The chief's request followed an earlier Article 15 communication, submitted in November 2019 by Brazil's human rights advocacy collective and the Dom Paulo Evaristo Arns Commission for Human Rights, accusing Bolsonaro of crimes against humanity and genocide for the destruction of the Amazon and harm to indigenous people. The court has not responded to that request. Both of the requests for investigations argue that the livelihoods, culture and survival of indigenous groups are directly linked to the natural environment. Policies that encourage mass ecological harm are effectively an attack on tribes, the activists and tribal leaders say. They then extend that argument to the rest of humanity, in light of the climate crisis and the Amazon's key role in storing carbon. Thanks for joining us at TTS Times Wire News. Be sure to like and subscribe to get fast and efficient narrations of the latest news articles for those on the go. We upload every weekday at noon Eastern Standard Time. See you next time on The Wire, and be sure to like and subscribe.